you go. So I'm just putting all this stuff here, and then we'll pull it back down once we, replace the wood. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. It's the end of December, and we've got another remarkably warm day for this time of year, and my Hugelkultur beds here are not frozen, so I thought I would take advantage of the situation. So what am I doing? I'm putting aside some really good compost for next spring. When I plant, when I sow my seeds in the spring, I like to put a little, like a line of seeds that were just sowed, and I like to put a line of really nice black earth over them. For some things like lettuce, I don't even bother, making a furrow. I just lay them on the soil and put the nice stuff on top. Generally speaking, I find, even for a garden my size, 2,500 square feet, this is about the right amount. Doesn't seem like much, but again, I'm not putting an inch of compost over the entire garden. I'm putting like half an inch. I'm making a strip about 2-3 inches wide and maybe a half an inch deep, right, over the areas where I've laid my seeds. For a couple reasons. Number one, the soil is very black, so it draws the sun's heat into the soil where those seeds are. Number two, it's usually a slightly darker color than the soil in the garden, so I can tell where I put my seeds, so it's very clear where I've sown. I can also tell just by looking at beds which beds I've sown in and which beds haven't, because there's either lines of really black stuff or sometimes like a squash would be a circle, right? So I can tell that. And a third reason is it just gives you a little bit of a psychological advantage, because you're putting some really, really good soil right where the seeds are germinating. So if things aren't working, you're not going to blame your soil because you just amended it with the finest stuff, right? So yeah, these beds here, these are, you could say they're compost piles in a sense. Really, I've got, a bunch of logs that have leaves and rotten, every year I pick a different one of these beds. Okay, let me start this over again. Every year, and I'm pretty sure I got the right one this year, who knows, I pick a different one of these beds, I dig it up a bit, and there's 4 of them, right? 4 little areas here, and I dig a big hole in it. I take about this much soil out, and then I fill the gap, the hole I've made, with the rotten logs and kitchen waste, believe it or not, kitchen waste. I figure it's deep enough here that nothing's going to get at it. Seems to work out okay. Bury it good and deep, and this sort of, people ask me all the time, do you bury stuff in your garden? I can't really compost kitchen waste here, generally speaking, because I've got black bears and things like that. The only real way you can do it here is if you bury it, which this time of year is not a big deal. But I can't be, someone just asked me this the other day, do you dig holes and bury stuff in your garden? Well, it's very impractical once I have things growing on my garden beds. You don't want to be digging holes in them, while there's stuff growing. It's just for the amount of, kitchen waste we generate. So I got some over there. Every 2 weeks, my family, this is a bucket that's 16 inches by 2 feet wide, okay? 16 by 24 inches. Every 2 weeks, we generate about half of one of these in kitchen waste. We cook everything from scratch. We eat a lot of vegetables. We use everything. We make soup, we do all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just what we generate. So it's, there's no way I could be digging a hole every 2 weeks to warehouse that in my garden. It would just mess the whole garden up. We just put it in our green bin and the city takes it away. It's unfortunate, and actually in this area where I live, most people in the summer months when the bears aren't that active, they're still active this time of year, but not as active as in the summer. A good number of people on my street, anything that they think the bears will be interested in, they freeze it. Like if we have a lobster dinner or something like that, we take all those shells and we we freeze it in the freezer and we put it out on compost day, the day the city picks up the compost, because something's gonna, probably a bear is gonna get into your green bin and tear that apart, right? Anyway, enough about that. So the exercise here, I got this beautiful stuff on top. Now I should be screening this, but to tell you the truth, I just don't feel like it today. So I'm just gonna put it in the container and you know, screen it in the spring or something when I feel like it. You know, most of this, I would say 90% of this is good stuff. A little bit will be screened out. I just don't feel like screening today, to tell you the truth. I'm just taking all this nice, good stuff off the top. And the reason I brought a shovel out here, you know what? I think this is a bed I did this too recently, because I'm down to the logs already. That's okay. We'll solve that. You know, with gardening as with life, there's a way around most things. We'll work around. Is that a potato? Ah, it's just a rock. Yeah, I'm down to the logs already. Unbelievable. All right, it's okay. All right, that's probably about as much as I want to pick up on a good day. Ooh, that's heavy. A lot of water in this. All right, down we go. All right, now what do we do with all this? Well, I got to get these. I got these rotten logs here. They got to come out so I can get even deeper. So I got to have enough soil to cover everything. There's another one. You notice the logs aren't, you know, broken down. It takes a while for these things to break down, right? So I probably should have dug from the adjacent bed. I did some probing here with a stick. I thought this was the one that was ready, but these aren't gone. They're still there. That's okay. We'll just go deeper. So all I'm doing here is just moving all the soil. I did a video just the other day where I was doing a bit of trench composting. The same kind of idea, right? I'm just moving all the stuff aside. There's another log. Come on. Yeah. There we go. I don't know how well you can see all that. Maybe I should change the camera angle. A little bit more panoramic view here. There we go. All right, so now I think I've got just about, nope, another one. It's like digging up buried treasure. And another one, holy smokes. The wood runs deep here. Another one. Look at that. All I'm doing is just trying to get that hole as deep as I can get it. Holy smokes, I'm gonna have to mark this down. This was definitely the wrong one to dig in. There's so, I just keep, further down I go, there's more wood. It's wood all the way down, as the famous infinite regress analogy goes. Wow. Okay, I think we're finally, no, more wood. It's just infinite wood in here. Okay, now we're done. Now we're through it all. Boy, I hope so. I must have dug this one up last year. There we go. I'm just putting all this stuff here, and then we'll pull it back down once we, replace the wood. Boy, some really good rot in that. I got some good wood out of the forest as well, with a lot of fungus and stuff on it. So I think that's always good. I love pulling rotten wood off the forest floor. You just never know, what you're getting in it. Also, by turning this this bed upside down, sure, I'm kind of tilling it, but I'm also taking all the nutrients and stuff that were whatever was down near the bottom, and getting it up near the top. It is like digging a grave, I have to say. Seems like an awful lot of work for a little bit of soil, but I only do it once a year, so it's not, there's a lot of things I can do once a year that's tolerable, like, doing your income tax, whatever. It's just got to be done. All right, I think we've gone about as far with that as we can. All right, so I'll put these back in. There we go. Never hurts to break things a bit. Now, in an ideal world, I'd take all the soil out and, really go to town here, but there's no point in killing yourself for marginal gains. There we go. All right, so that's all the wood that came out of it. All right, so now I'm gonna take some of this clay-like stuff here, just mine this way. See how it's all clay? Mine this way a little bit. Pull that up over the wood that I just stuck in. See, that's not particularly good stuff, just clay and rocks. A lot of worms in here. A lot of worms getting messed up by me right now. Oh, I forgot about these pieces here. Let's throw them right there. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay, now we've put everything in that we took out. That's it. Okay, look at all that clay in there. Now I got some really nice rotten stuff. Just get out of the woods. Really good spongy stuff that'll hold moisture well. See if we can get one more layer here to bring the soil back up to, roughly where it was when I made the hole. Good way to get your frustrations out. There's a good rotten piece. Look at all the rot and lichen and stuff on that. Yeah, man, right there. That's good. I don't know if that guy's gonna go. Let's use this smaller one here. All right, that's good. Now I got some kitchen waste. Kitchen waste. Yeah. Woo. Yeah, that's 2 weeks worth right there. Now, a lot of oranges in there. My wife bought a bag of oranges, but they all bruised and not much use. So sadly enough, they all had sour taste and just weren't any good. There's all that. Now, I can actually break these up a little bit, I guess, some of them. You could do, just to give you an example, you could actually, you know, if you really wanted to, if you had some time on your hands, you could take stuff like this and, you know, bust it up into smaller pieces, do some of the heavy lifting, right? That's an option if you want to do it that way. I'm not going to bother. I have another use for those things. So now all that remains to do is to get the soil back on top. Here's some soil that I just took out. It's just beautiful, beautiful black stuff, right? Hey, one more thought there that just came to mind as I was, you know, sort of putting everything away and packing up the camera gear. You know, there's often that comment when you do something like this, where you're doing a lot of digging, people say, oh, that's too much work, that's a lot of work. And really, for my money, in terms of the work involved in composting, you think of someone hot composting, they have to turn that stuff over all the time. There's a lot of things you have to do to keep that going. With cold, I mean, really, this is the only work I do in these beds every year. Right? Once a year, I spend about 20 minutes making a hole, taking some soil out, putting some wood back in, filling it all back into going away. 20 minutes of work a year. That's all the work I do to get, you know, this nice black stuff. You know, while everything's breaking down in these beds, I'm growing squash, potatoes, and garlic. They're deer proof here, so that's what I grow here. I've grown tomatoes here, but it's not, there's big trees right behind, right over there, so it doesn't get the best sun. But anyway, it's not a lot of work. 20 minutes a year is not a lot of work. So anyway, I just had that thought cross my mind, so I'll stick it in the video somewhere. So anyway, that's a general idea. That's a way to go about, you know, creating nice compost if you're living somewhere where it's very difficult to do. I know some people will say, why don't you vermicompost? Well, you just saw how much, you know, kitchen waste we generate in 2 weeks. Where in the hell would I put all that stuff? I mean, how much of a, think of the kind of vermicomposting setup I'd need to have to deal with all of that, right? It would just be, it's like over 5 gallons of kitchen waste, you know, every 2 weeks. I just don't see the I just don't see that being workable. So it would be great if I could just have it all out here in the ground, being worked on by the, by the worms and the other organisms in the soil. But that's just not the situation I'm in. So you work around it, make the best of it, and figure out a solution. So now I've got a bed all ready for next year. I'm going to put a nice mulch on this. I'm going collecting seaweed with a buddy of mine in a day or so. So this is going to be covered with that and some of the leaves that were on here before. I'm going to put seaweed down, then leaves. I love to have seaweed underneath the leaves. And this will be all ready to be a beautiful potato garden next year. And I got that nice compost for sowing my seeds and just getting that little bit of an edge next season when I'm sowing all my seeds in April, May, and June. So I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com, and until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, just a little bonus footage here, showing you what I did with that bucket of compost, really nice black soil. I stuck it underneath one of my little mini greenhouses, and just try to affect somewhat of an insulated environment to keep it in. This is facing east, not ideal, but this is where I would keep things like that, is behind my gardening shed. So I stuffed up the side, sitting on top of a bucket, and sort of jammed in a spot there. I just stuffed up the cracks and spaces around it using some moss from the forest floor. This is basically in the woods behind my house sort of thing. So I jam some leaves and moss and stuff in like there. So that way you can warm up and stay reasonably warm. It'll probably freeze a little bit in the winter, but the idea here is that maybe it doesn't get super cold. Maybe there's enough sunlight getting through there. There's enough of a microclimate affected that it stays thawed or somewhat thawed over the course of the winter. Maybe the worms can do a little bit of work there. Maybe there can be a little composting going on there. But most importantly, in April or even late March, when I want to use this soil, it should be thawed enough and not a just frozen block of ice. Right? It should be thawed out and ready to rock. And that's the idea. So that's what I'm doing with that. Hope you found that interesting.